What's up, goofballs? Welcome back to OpinionATE. I'm Kooks. I hope everyone's having the best week. First of all, I just want to apologise for the gap in my content. Obviously, I still don't have the equipment to be doing this as much as I'd love to be doing it. But if you saw my last video, it was the tube change vlog that went wrong, and boy did it not stop there. Without getting too much into it, I won't bore you with all the details, but the nasal injury they caused left so much blood clotting my sinuses that then led to a sinus infection that then led into a tooth, into my ear, into my jaw and into my chest, and now after a shit ton of antibiotics, we're finally slightly back on the right track. So sorry for the lack of content. Like I said, I still don't have the equipment to be doing it, but I've got access to some equipment today and I just want to be getting some of these videos out. We've got a few different things you guys have asked us to talk about. We've got a what would you do that we're going to start with, but because we're covering some heavier topics, we're also going to chuck in a Q&A right in the middle of it. You guys sent in some gnarly questions, so we're going to do a bit of a sandwich situation and throw that between some of the heavier topics. But starting with our what would you do, I have put a voice filter over their voice note just in case, but from what I can tell, this person lives in the UK, so if anyone has any resources or anything that might help this person, please leave them in the comments or send them to me and I can forward them on to them. But from what I can tell, unless they've moved out of the UK, that's where they live. And I do just want to preface really quickly, this is about going no contact with parents, so if that's something that might affect you, feel free to skip ahead to the Q&A. I'll leave a timestamp on the screen and we will yap again very, very soon. Alright, so this is our what would you do.
Sorry, I'm talking so quiet, but I'm scared they can hear me now. I just want to know what you would do if you were 18, but don't have the money to move out, however, are thinking about no contact with your parents. Like, I don't want to not have any family, but I know being in this house at least is very bad for me. And I think when I move out, I don't know if I want to stay in their life.
My darling, I can hear your voice breaking at the end of that, and I just want to start off saying I'm really fucking proud of you. Sorry for the swearing, but I am really, really proud of you. You're at that age where you're figuring out all the things that were right and wrong about your upbringing or your family dynamics or your childhood, and that is so overwhelming within itself, but the fact that you're able to recognize, hey, this environment, these people, whatever it might not be right for me right now and I deserve better is incredible. So I need you to know that I'm proud of you and you should be proud of yourself. And it's true, you do deserve better. I obviously don't know a whole lot of details about what you're living in and going through, but often I find if someone's even considering no contact, it's probably at least a good idea for a short period of time. You're almost 18, that's so exciting, but it is so overwhelming, especially when you're having all these realizations. It can be such an isolating feeling and so confusing. Like I said, you're realizing what was right and wrong about your upbringing, you're realizing what you do and don't want in your future. You also have all these societal pressures, like the people around you that have the privilege of not understanding what it's like to need to go no contact with a parent, and adding to that feeling of feeling misunderstood or so isolated. And alongside that, so many people that try and go no contact with their parents are simultaneously trying to do the right thing for themselves, but also so hardwired into trying to keep the peace and do the right thing for other people. But so often when you are doing that and you're not putting yourself first, you're almost allowing the cycle to continue. And the fact of the matter is, so many people do deserve better than what their current situation is. For a lot of people, the first few years of adult life is healing from your childhood or the things that you missed out on or that maybe shouldn't have been the way they were. And the fact you can recognize that in itself is incredible. You should be so proud of that. And I almost want you to take that frustration and sadness for your younger self and use it as spite to live your adult years as much as possible. Make as many memories as possible. Heal in all the ways you need to, but live harder for the child version of you that didn't get to live the ideal life. Like I said, there's all these societal pressures and stuff, especially when it comes to things like holidays and celebrations and birthdays, and when it's parents, you have Mother's Day, Father's Day, all these things, and it almost just adds this extra pressure because it is so hard to put yourself first sometimes. It can feel so wrong and so selfish, and that's where my whole fake it till you make it to rewire your brain thing comes in, because you have to tell yourself you deserve better, you deserve a better life, you deserve better people in your life. And it does suck when the first few years of being an adult is healing from your childhood, but that's something that you deserve to be able to do, and if no contact means you're going to be able to do that, then no contact might be the right thing for you. Obviously communication's always going to be the first step, but when you're in an environment where you're constantly trying to communicate and it's not being reciprocated, or no one's understanding or even trying to understand, it does keep you in that little rat race, and sometimes you do need to be able to take a step back. Now when it comes to actually being able to move out, I obviously don't know too much about the UK and what resources are available, so I really hope that some people in the comments might be able to offer some better options than I'm able to, but I will try and do some research and put some things in the description or on the screen. Even if you have to set up a GoFundMe, send it through to me so I can share it around on my socials. But I need you to understand that it's not being selfish, especially if it means that you're healing parts of you that won't affect other people in the future. If you want to have kids in the future, if you want to figure out who you are as a person and the type of person you want to be, and then the type of people you want to be around, that's all things that are going to benefit you for the rest of your life. And it does become a certain point where you have to stop living your life for other people, living your life to try and keep the peace. Like, there is just so much that goes into a child wanting to go no contact with their parent. But like I said, if that's something you're even considering, so often at least some space, a short period of no contact, can be beneficial, and it is okay. You're allowed to do that. I hope you're okay, and I'm really proud of you for recognizing what might not be right for you at this point in time. The next few years should be full of memories and figuring things out and finding the people that make you happy and make every day easier and make every tomorrow exciting. Like, start trying to find the life that you want to live, because you deserve to be living that, and I hope that you find everything that comes alongside that while making some incredible memories and meeting some incredible people. If there's anything we can do to help, please let us know, whether it's a GoFundMe, certain resources, whatever it may be, let us know. But you have got this. You deserve all the healing and growth and everything that you can find, and it's right around the corner. It's exciting. Don't let that ambivalence and nervousness and stuff hold you back. Try and lean into it as an exciting feeling and start figuring out all of those good things that you deserve in your life. You've got this, my dear. Look after yourself. Here is a forehead kiss. And if anyone in the comments wants to give some advice, please do. But also, if anyone else has a what would you do that you want to send in, feel free to send either a voice note or a message over to my Instagram, TikTok, even my email. It's up to you, my dear. But feel free to send one through, and hopefully we can add it into the next video, which hopefully can be recorded much sooner rather than later. Alright, we're going to get into this Q&A. There are quite a lot of questions, so we might not get through all of them today, but feel free to keep sending questions and we can keep adding in Q&A segments. I'm an open book, and all I want to do is help people, and if it means embarrassing myself to do so, I'm more than willing to do that. So feel free to ask anything. Let's get into it. Alright, we had quite a lot of sexual questions, but I think the two that were most frequently asked were, 1, what is my body count? And 2, can I still have sex? Which I'm assuming is inferring to the chronic illness and tube of it all. Alright, so my body count, believe it or not, only 2 consensual partners, and as for am I able to have sex? Yeah, I am able to. Do I? No. I self-isolated so hard and single-bossed it so hard that I've almost developed, like, not a fear, but the idea of letting people back into my space and losing privacy and stuff, like, it just doesn't appeal to me. My 5-year relationship ended at the very end of 2022. I had one situationship in between then that had quite a scary ending. I did speak about that briefly in a past video, but I kind of lost the desire to do that, and that's because when I self-isolated, I was so convinced that just by knowing me or talking to me or just knowing anything about me being involved in my life was going to have a negative impact on people. So I was like, for their sake, do not let anyone in. But I almost got so used to that now the idea of breaking that, I'm like, oh, I don't know, I don't have the desire to change it. And I'm also not someone that's going out of my way to do that. Like, I don't do dating apps. I don't have the desire to use dating apps. I don't know, I've been working on the whole mindset of having a negative impact on other people just by them knowing who I am. But I feel like I've still got a little bit of a way to go with that. I do it with friendships as well. Like, I don't know, I self-isolated a little too hard. I'm pretty sure my virginity has grown back. Like, whatever you're thinking for the last time I had sex, triple it. Triple it. It's grown back. But again, I'm okay with that. Like, I don't know, I think when the time comes, it'll feel right. But for now, I've just got so many other things I'm prioritizing. I finally want a future, and I have such big goals for myself. Like, my priorities are helping people and trying to get to the goals that I have. Because I literally have FOMO of my own future. So yeah, I don't know, one day I'm sure I'll change that, but I'm not seeking out changing that. And I think there's a little bit of rewiring I have to do in my brain surrounding like losing my privacy and my space and things like that again. Which is crazy to think, because that 5-year relationship, loved that. Loved having space that I shared with someone and having a routine that included someone else and having so much openness. But the idea of any of that now, I'm like, we're gonna need separate rooms. But anyway, next question. Ooh, this one says, were you ever bullied in school? If so, what for? Absolutely I was. Okay, so what I got bullied for was my eyebrow. Not eyebrows, eyebrow. It was just one big caterpillar going across my forehead. And the thing about my bullying is, it was a situation where it was like, my best friends turned into my bullies. And so for a long time there, I thought I was still part of this like friend group, but they were literally bullying me. And they had this nickname for me that to this day, I still don't get it. I still don't get it. I don't know where it came from. I don't understand how it like, I don't know if I should say it, because I feel like that's just something I'm going to be hearing for the rest of my life if I do. And although I laugh at it now because it just like doesn't make sense and I still don't get it, I don't really need to be hearing that for the rest of my life. But anyway, it started probably in like, I want to say year 6, and then it carried in through year 7, and then when I was in school, year 8 was the first year of high school, and it just kept escalating and escalating. Like year 7 it was really bad, and then year 8 it just continued. It also went into year 9, but I moved away for 6 months and then went back. But in year 8, the high school that we went to, it had a few different 2-story buildings, right? And the lockers were all on the 2nd story of those buildings. So you were meant to go to your locker of a morning, put your backpack in there and whatnot. So I used to walk into the school grounds, and the ringleader, we'll call her A. A would stand on that 2nd story balcony and throw tweezers at me as I was walking into the school grounds, and obviously I would just keep walking. I wouldn't stop, wouldn't touch the tweezers, I would just keep walking. But she would lose her tweezers. I don't even know if she did actually lose her tweezers, but then she would start rumours that like I was Povo and I was stealing her tweezers, and by this point I was maintaining my eyebrows, which mind you, I had been doing for like a year and a half. I had a birth mother that would not let me do my, that's a whole situation in itself, but I started off by shaving my eyebrows with a damn razor. A razor, which my family cooked me for when they realised what I was doing. I actually specifically remember getting called out at like a family lunch out sort of thing and everyone laughing at me. But by that point I had eyebrows, not eyebrow, but this girl just could not let it go. It was just its own thing. But honestly, now all I hope for this person is that they have grown and evolved and are a completely different person to who they were in school, because last I saw, I'm pretty sure she's a stepmom now, so for the sake of that child, for her partner, the future that they all are going to have together, I hope that she is a far different person and a much better person and has grown in all the ways she needed to. But yeah, I'd say that was like my bullying experience, with a few little bits and bobs outside of that. But yeah, so funny to look back on now, because what did that nickname mean? Anyway. Ooh, okay, this next one was, what's the best way to get revenge? And I have a bit of a hot take here. When it comes to revenge and petty revenge and stuff like that, I think if you're constantly trying to hold up a mirror to someone, especially if there's someone that possesses maybe narcissistic tendencies or anything like that, you almost end up stuck on the retaliation station, the revenge roundabout, and that just stops you from growing and evolving as a person or moving on your journey in life and meeting new people, making more memories, having different things to worry about. I so understand trying to hold up a mirror to someone and like have them feel what you're feeling or see it from your point of view or whatever, but I think that if you get in a cycle of doing that, it is just holding you back and you're ending up on the same level as them. And even what we were saying earlier with like the whole no contact with a parent and things like that, if you are dealing with someone that has narcissistic traits or is a narcissist, one of the biggest things with a narcissist is that they hate the idea of losing control, especially from a parental point of view. They might prevent you from getting your driver's license, from going to school, from moving out. Like, They hate losing control. And by you just sticking in that cycle and the rat race with them, you're kind of allowing them to continue controlling. Because they know if they flip their shit, if they do something that hurts you, you're just going to stay and try and reflect that back on them, and you're still going to be interacting with them. At a certain point, you got to get off that retaliation station, that revenge roundabout, and continue your journey and accept that, hey, it's not my responsibility to try and get this person to evolve and grow and realize their flaws, because there's only so much you can do before it's negatively impacting who you are as a person and the life that you deserve to be living. But anywhoosie, next. Alright, this next one is, do you believe any conspiracy theories? If so, what ones? And I have my own little conspiracy theory going on at the moment. Okay, so I need to preface this with, if this is the case, I hold no negative feeling, no animosity, nothing towards this. But I am someone that once I have a question, I just want to know the answer. Like, I just want to know. So my current conspiracy is that either Tana herself or someone on Tana Mojo's team have seen my suggestions, whether it's my comments or my videos I've made, and taken them on board and actually executed them. Which, again, no negative feeling if that is the case, I just want to know. But it's happened with a few different things, and I think the two main ones are, her and Trisha just did a show in Vegas, and this was my pitch. I'll play a little video here.
Vegas is dying. That's what people everywhere are saying.
I think I have the solution. Okay, hear me out. Trisha Paytas and Tana Mojo do a show. It's called Divas Las Vegas. It opens with a big act of Trisha's iconic Viva Las Vegas performance where they're all in showgirl outfits, etc. But it's also a mixture of their Not Loveline podcast and a show of them performing their iconic performances and stuff. So not only will they interact with the crowd, but Tana could pull out her iconic Hefner performance, and each time that's performed, they could bring out a different iconic Playboy bunny, like their girly Holly Madison, you know what I mean? And then they could end the show with a cute little song, and they've always spoken about writing their own songs, so it could be a cute little something like, you're the Tana to my Trisha, the love to my not love line, when I'm having a bad day, then ain't with you, I'm feeling fine, doing shows and shooting photos with you's favorite thing of mine, ain't that true? Like, they could take it country like Tana wants to, and they can, like, make it cute, like, you're the pickle to my talkie, the curl to my curly fry wire. You get the point, right? And the pushing for it could be them in showgirl outfits. And then this is what they actually just ended up doing. So I unfortunately live in Australia. I wish I could have gone to the show. Again, no negative feeling, proud of them. If they did take my idea, hell yeah. But from what I can gather from TikToks and stuff, they called the show Viva Las Vegas. It started with them as showgirls singing Viva Las Vegas. Tana performed Hefner, and they did bring out Holly Madison. It was an interactive sort of show. I don't know if they did end up making up their own song or not, but I can't tell if someone took my suggestion or if it's just my intuition or my finger's just really on the pulse. Either way, from what I can see, they absolutely killed the show, and I'm so sad that I don't live anywhere near Vegas and couldn't have seen it. But there was also a couple of other ones. I think one of the main other ones was Tana and Amari went on Bert Kreischer, and I had just left a comment saying that, like, they should do a series where Bert is teaching Tana all of these things that not all of us got taught as kids. Like, just things like how to change a tire or how to ride a bike, like all these random little things. And the comment got like over 2,000 likes and a heap of people replying back to the comment. So I had also made a video saying like, yo, we need this. And then she did start doing that series, but instead of Bert Kreischer, it was with Makoa, her partner. And if you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's so wholesome. And I think it's really sweet for the people that also didn't get to learn a lot of things throughout their upbringing to both watch someone learn it, but she's also very open about the emotions behind learning it as an adult, and it can be overwhelming, so it's really cool to be able to learn vicariously through Tana. If you haven't watched it, go watch it, but that's another situation where it's like, did they see my comment? Is my finger on the pulse? Is my intuition just really popping off? Like, I don't know. And it's happened with like other influencers and stuff as well, where even with just minor things. I remember at Coachella time, there was like 3 different people that were posting saying they don't know what to wear. They were showing kind of different things in their wardrobe or what they were looking at or thinking about, and I just kind of would like think of a random outfit for them and suggest it, and they would acknowledge the comment, and then all of a sudden we're wearing it at Coachella, and it was just like confirmation in my brain like, hey, but I can't tell with these situations. So that's my current conspiracy theory, is that someone on Tana's team has seen my suggestions and they've taken them on board. Either that or I'm Delulu. Either way, great content coming out of it, so I'm not mad. Alright, next question. Okay, I've got a similar answer for the next, camera's about to die. Okay, I've kind of got a similar answer for like the next couple of questions, so I'm just going to quickly read them out and then I'll answer them. So one of them is, should the guy pay on a date? What are my thoughts on Valentine's Day? And would you ever date someone under 6 foot / what's the shortest you would date? And for each of these things, I think it is so situational and just dependent on the relationship itself. But I think that so many people read into societal pressures or see what's trendy online and put all these weird little expectations into things that was never like preconceived in their head before. And I think that expectation almost kills certain things, like especially with Valentine's Day, for example. I think that so many people see like how certain people celebrate it on social media, and then all of a sudden they have this expectation in their head and they lose the whole meaning of the day. When it comes to things like Valentine's Day, I think it should be about both people in the relationship showing their appreciation and their gratitude for each other and trying to do something nice for the other person. It shouldn't be one-sided, and it shouldn't be this big grandiose thing that's like full of expectations. Like I said, I think it should be about showing each other that appreciation, showing appreciation for the relationship and the love that they have. And by putting in all those weird expectations, one, you're taking like the excitement and the individuality of your relationship out of the date, but two, you're more so living for a trend than you are for your actual wants and needs. Like, I think there's so many different sentimental things that people can do to celebrate those days or to show love for each other. And hot take, but I think social media has put this weird expectation on it, and it's such a one-sided expectation. And then I kind of feel the same way when it comes to like the whole 6 foot expectation thing. I think it's become a trend for people to say like, no, I wouldn't date under this height or whatever it might be. Where I don't actually think most of these people feel that way, or at least didn't feel that way until it became this big trend to be like a man hater online or whatever it might be. And it feels so like, I don't want any pick-me allegations or anything like that right now, please. I'm not trying to just defend. But I think it's more normal to be like, oh, I would like a partner that's taller than me, rather than be like, I'm not dating anyone under 6'3". Like, I don't know, again, I think it's that societal pressure and like the whole expectations, but they're not your own expectations. It's not something that's coming truly from what you want. And I don't think any of the people that are like so dead set in that, if you came across someone that you genuinely connected with and that felt like the perfect match for you and then realized they were 6 foot instead of 6'3", I think you'd be redonkulous to turn them down for that. And I don't think most people would actually do that. I think it's something that kind of became a trend, and unfortunately we live in a world where a lot of people don't think for themselves and they don't live for themselves. They live for other people's perception or expectations, and weirdly enough, this is one of those things that somehow got looped into that. Alright, what was the other part? Oh my god, and then should the guy pay first on the date? Similar thing. I think it's a societal expectation, and I don't know, I understand the whole like, whoever asks the other person out on the date should pay, but I also think it's so situational and it depends on the people themselves. I personally have such a guilty conscience when someone tries to pay for like anything for me. I'm in so much debt to my sister because of my medical shit, and that's like one side of that guilt that it just eats away at me. But even if it was in a dating sense, even if they're just trying to buy me a drink, I could not in good conscience like not at least buy them a drink straight after. I think it is so situational and dependent on the person, and if you do have those kind of expectations and stuff, I think that should be communicated. I find it so bizarre to just like have these blanket rules and expect that other people are going to understand those or have the same things without any communication. But anyway, we'll move on because I fear that just made me sound like the biggest pick-me, and dude, I promise you, I am pansexual, but I have a song about not knowing if I'm pansexual or if I'm fully gay because of how much men scare me. Like, I did not mean to sound like such a man defender then, but that's my opinion on these things, I'm sorry. Alright, next question. Ooh. Okay, this one's a bit of a heavier one, but it's just asking, have I ever been suicidal? And I have a bit of a long explanation for this one, but something that I don't hear people talk about very often is something called suicidal ideation. And I have had suicidal ideation from a very, very young age. I was mentally ill from a very young age, and a lot of those mental illnesses I didn't realise were mental illnesses until far later in life, because I didn't know any brain outside of the brain I had myself. And I always thought stuff like that, like suicidal ideation, was completely normal. If anything, I thought mine might have been a little bit louder than other people's, or maybe I had a little less control over it, but I thought stuff like that was so normal. And so, have I ever been suicidal? Yes, it's almost like my brain's natural disposition is to be that way, but I've come so far with rewiring my brain and stuff that even on my bad days where the suicidal ideation's cranked up a notch and it's even louder, I can acknowledge that's just part of my brain and it's not my actual wants or needs, and that I might just have to be a bit more gentle with myself on the day, or that my brain's just being a little bit extra of a for the day. But like I said, I thought stuff like that was completely normal, and if you are someone that struggles with suicidal ideation, just know that there are different levels of controlling it, there are different levels of understanding it, and I think one of the most helpful things is being able to separate yourself from those things. And that kind of goes for any diagnosis, like understanding that's not your identity, it's not who you are. Those letters of the alphabet are just to help you understand your brain a bit better and find what's going to make managing those harder and louder days a little bit easier. And again, you also have to fake it till you make it with a lot of this stuff. Like, on the days it is even louder, you tell yourself you want a future, you deserve a future, that it's going to get easier again, that you're allowed to have a bit of a slower day, that it's okay that it's loud and it's not your fault, but it is going to get quieter again. There's just so much that you can rewire about your brain. So if you are someone that struggles with anything like that, please just know that it is so possible to change it. You deserve to have more control over it, and if you have to fake it till you make it, fake it, dude. But there is a brain out there that is so much more tolerable to live with, and you deserve to find that brain. And I just want to send a big forehead kiss to anyone that struggles with it. Just know it can get better. Oh my god, I completely forgot. I got this whole bag next to me actually. I found old sketchbooks and journals from when I was so little. Like, this still has its little padlock and key on it. But I found so many things like this that it's really crazy to look back on as an adult now that understands my brain and has rewired so much of it, but almost seeing evidence of like the mental illness from such a young age. Like, there's so many drawings and just journal entries and stuff that really highlight suicidal ideation, or the eating disorder that I developed at 4 or 5 years old, or how normalized abuse and stuff was in my life. And there is so much that I thought was normal until I changed my brain and was able to rewire my brain. And look, if we get the chance, we'll dive into some of these, but especially some of the drawings. If you remember these from primary school, yeah dude, stuff in here, I'm like, she was just so unwell and didn't even know. And I'm so grateful I've managed to heal certain parts of myself and made so much progress with certain parts of myself. I understand my brain so much now, but like I said, all of these things developed at such a young age that I didn't know what a normal brain was. And I always say there's no such thing as normal, only such thing as routine, and therefore only such thing as your normal. And if your normal has been being mentally ill from such a young age, you don't realise the type of brain that you could potentially have. You don't realise the things that you're able to change. You don't realise what other people's brains are actually like. I could go on about this for so long, but I'm going to leave it there as to not go on a million tangents, but just know there's not a single thing about your brain you cannot rewire to at the very least be managing better, to feel like you have more control over it. Like, you guys are all so capable of living the life you want, having the brain you want, having your brain be so much more tolerable, finding the things that make every day easier and every tomorrow actually seem tolerable and exciting, and it's out there. Please do not ever think that however your brain treats you now is how it's going to be for the rest of your life, because it's not if you don't want it to be. But we'll move on now. Okay, the next question is, how do you have so much empathy? And this is really hard to talk about without sounding super narcissistic, so I'm going to try my best, but just know I'm aware that it could sound that way and I do not intend it to be that way at all. But When it comes to that, I always say to myself that I don't know everything, but I understand everything. And I mean that in like, I understand people, I understand mental illness, I understand the corruption and control in the world that stops me from knowing everything. In fact, I almost understand that I know nothing. I understand the reality of the medical system, the reality of politics, or the ways people behave and react and how they got to that point in their life. And we are truly a recipe of the environment we were in our developmental years, whether it's the people around us, reactions, actions, rules, morals, like so many different things. And some of us end up hardwired to being so negative and hateful towards ourselves. Some people it's towards other people, some people it's jealousy, some people it's to be a victim. Like, I just understand people, and I think that's where a lot of my empathy comes from, alongside going through some shit. But I also just have a brain that like will always try and understand, is maybe the best way to word it. Like, I've had so many people tell me in the past, therapists, whatever, that my overdriving empathy can cause more harm to me than good. But I've always said I'd rather have too much empathy than not enough. And I've always had this brain that will always try and understand the other person, and for some reason it always tries and flips it so that I blame myself and somehow feel guilty myself, and that's where it can become harmful for me. But my brain's wired for its first response to be understanding the other person and somehow having empathy for them. And I'm trying to disconnect from flipping that onto myself simultaneously. Yeah, just understanding people, understanding situations, and having life experience that I might not have been grateful for at the time, but I'm grateful to be able to hopefully help people one day with that experience. Anyway, we're gonna move on, otherwise I'm gonna keep cringing at myself, and none of us need that. Ooh, okay. Weirdest place I've ever had sex. I don't know if I should answer this one. Look, fuck it. I was a teenager. Ew, that doesn't make it any better. That does not make it better. But, I digress. We were at a beach party and there was a public toilet nearby. We definitely utilized that public toilet. The utilities, if you will. I'm so sorry. But it was probably there. It was the public toilet at the beach. One of the main things I remember is, you know those gigantic moths? All through that toilet, literally everywhere. So that was an experience, a patchy one in my memory, but it was an experience. We'll move on. Alright, this next one's gonna lead us into our next lot of topics for our What's Poppin' segment, which is mostly pop culture, but you guys have asked me to speak on a couple of different things, and we are going to get to that. So this Q&A question was, what are my thoughts on Ozemp? And that's a loaded one. So, like a lot of things, I think that there are a lot of benefits to it for a lot of people, but I also think that not only the medication itself can be extremely harmful in the wrong hands, but I think that the way a lot of people talk about it is extremely harmful. Yes, it's all well and good for you to not have those hunger cues anymore and not feel like you need as much nutrition, but your body still needs all that nutrition. I always say you're going to be dealing with the consequences of your actions one day. When it comes to having a lack of nutrition, those consequences suck, my dude. Just having electrolyte imbalances, even though a lot of people you see online have access to a lot of things because they have money, especially when it comes to celebrities and influencers, they have access to Ozemp, they also have access to IV replacements and getting fluids and stuff to help with the electrolyte imbalances and whatnot. But your body constantly going in and out of having those imbalances causes so much harm within itself. And the consequences of those kinds of actions look like your teeth falling out of your head faster than you can keep up with them, so much hair loss, your organs physically not working, certain arteries getting kinked and compressing shit together. Like, there are so many consequences to those actions, and so many people don't realize it yet because they're not actively dealing with them yet. And we'll get into a lot more of that in a second, but I think that the way it is spoken about and the lack of understanding for a lot of people is so unbelievably harmful. People need to understand how dangerous laxatives are, how dangerous Ozemp is, how dangerous heavy restriction is, over exercising is. Like I said, you are going to be dealing with the consequences of your actions one day, and there is no such thing as normal, only such thing as routine, and only such thing as what's normalized for you. And we live in a society that normalizes trying to control how we look and how we're being perceived. And so many people, that's what's at the forefront of their brain. That is what they prioritize, that's what they care about, that is what plagues their brain, is how they're being perceived, how they look, and trying to control it, right? It stops people from living the life they actually want to live, knowing what it is they actually want in life. Like, so many people live for the trends, live to fit in, live to control their perception, and it is so unbelievably sad because so many people don't even realize they're doing it. But then those exact people share their life online, and the younger generations see it, and they're just following that same cycle, and it's like watching a train crash and not being able to stop it, which is how I feel about this Ariana Grande situation. So let's get into that one. Now, first I want to acknowledge the people that are making videos about this situation, because unfortunately so many of the people that are talking about it are causing more harm than they realize. Not just to Ariana Grande herself, but to her fans, to the people viewing your videos, to so many people. And I want to explain why from the perspective of the young people watching your videos, as well as from the perspective of potentially what Ariana's going through, and how your videos might be negatively affecting her. So, first things first, eating disorders are such contagious, competitive, comparative, controlling, conniving little and the thing is, so many of the people making videos about this topic are including photos. When you're making videos like that, you're making a highlight reel of a sick body for these people to obsess over, to compare themselves with. There are just so many different ways that that kind of content is harmful to so many people. And the thing is, the internet is a fucking scary place, dude. But I know for a fact that so many of those videos are ending up on the certain sides of the internet that a lot of people have the privilege of not even knowing exist. And that's what making these videos is. It's a privilege of not understanding these things, but ignorance is bliss until it causes harm to other people, and watching this happen is literally, again, like watching a train crash and not being able to stop it. Not only are so many of the people interacting with your video interacting because you are showing graphic content, you're leading them to those sides of the internet. They interact with it enough, they are seeing those sick bodies enough, then it leads you down some dark rabbit holes, right? And like I said, eating disorders and stuff are so comparative, competitive, contagious. Like, I even saw a video the other day of someone in a bigger body saying that they have seen enough of those videos that they are starting to compare themselves to the sick body, and they can acknowledge that I don't want that body, but if she can get her body to that size, then I can at least get mine down to a size small. No, that's the exact start of the cycle. That's no. There is a way to talk about this stuff without using photos and without potentially triggering and harming other people. But unfortunately, so many people are coming from that place of privilege of not understanding the harm they are causing. And I guarantee you, majority of what that video is doing is harmful rather than helpful. Now let's talk about it from Ariana's point of view. I just want to preface this by saying this is coming from someone that I developed anorexia when I was about 4 or 5 years old. That's where my restrictive eating disorder started. So my brain was unwell my entire life without me even realizing how bad it was until I was able to make all of those changes. And I need people to understand, again, you are going to be dealing with the consequences of your actions one day. When it comes to your health and treating yourself alright, you do not want to wait until those consequences are irreversible, or you lose control over whether or not you are able to eat food, or whether or not you're able to control what level your health is at. And I've come such a long way with rewiring my brain and stuff, but it allows me to understand this from so many different people's point of view, and I just want to offer some light on how it might be affecting Ariana. So, for Ariana herself, I know that she has also had a very long-term eating disorder, and what happens at that point is so much of your identity, not only for yourself but for other people, is that you are disordered. So much of it is normalized, so much of your being and the ways you think, your thought patterns, the ways you live your day-to-day life, your routines, etc. are all ingrained in this disorder. And for someone that has severe enduring anorexia nervosa, which usually the criteria is based on the length of time and the severity of the disorder. So I was diagnosed with that by the time I was 19, I think. By that point, like I said, so much of your day-to-day life, your rituals, your thought processes, your behaviors, etc. have been developed by this disorder. And it's not only you that normalizes it, it's the people around you. Like, I know for myself, I was just known as the kid that didn't eat. I was known as the kid that didn't take food to school. It was normalized that I wouldn't have dinner. Like, it was just so normalized. And I can imagine it's pretty similar for her too. But that just leads to so much of your identity going into not eating. And now you've got to think of that on such a grand scale. She has so many people making videos about her or paying attention to every small shift that her body makes, and that is already something that is such a fear in your head. So when people are doing it when the weight's going down the scale, imagine the fear that's attached to it going up, and you already have this thought of everyone's going to notice if I gain even a pound, and then they're going to make videos about it. There must just be so much fear that goes into that. So that already makes it really hard. Not to mention, when you have long-term eating disorders and things like that, you often have comorbid things like OCD. So those rules and rituals and behaviors, if you've had them for a long time, they are so ingrained into your every move, your thought process, how you live your life. And like I said, it wasn't until I actively was able to start changing my brain that I even realized how much of my brain was just disordered, in not just eating disorders, but just disordered, because it was there for my whole life. It gets to the point, not only do you have to rewire your brain, you have to rewire your damn taste buds, you have to rewire your social media. And I know for a fact that she has also been on those sides of the internet for a very, very, very long time. It's a great thing if you don't know what sides of the internet I'm talking about, but they are so harmful. They're only a hop, skip and a jump away from the videos that people are making trying to spread awareness and concern about it. But already having such a big fear of how you're being perceived and trying to control how you're being perceived, mixed in with the fact that people are actively making all these videos about you and about your body and putting all this focus on your body and your illness, while you're also feeling so misunderstood and like you are in control of it. Just there's so many different things that go into it. And I would also just like to say, when you have severe enduring anorexia nervosa, not a lot of people understand it. And again, that is such a good thing, but getting help for it is near impossible. I literally had to make all the progress on my own. I had to step outside of the treatment world and had to do it all without psychiatrists because one, so many of them cause more harm than good, but two, so many of them I was having to educate myself. Like I had to teach them about it, or I was making them cry, or like you never actually get to the therapy part of it because you're trying to educate someone on something that is quite rare to come across, which just adds into how self-isolating and misunderstood it is. And eating disorders in themselves already are so misstereotyped and misunderstood. The thing is, you can't treat them as if everyone with an eating disorder is the same person struggling with the same thing in the same ways, because that is so far from the case. And that exact treatment method that most countries, most hospitals, medical systems go by causes so much more harm than it does good. Like I said earlier, they are competitive, they are contagious, they are comparative. So often, people pick up more and more behaviors and stuff while actively in treatment, and so often people aren't getting the adequate treatment that might actually help them, especially if they've had a longer term eating disorder, because they're not getting treated individually. But the reality is, people develop them for different reasons. People struggle with them in different ways, and therefore what's going to help them is going to look different per the person. You got to remember, anything Ariana Grande is going through with all of these things is on such a larger scale. It would make it so bloody hard, especially when you've got one side of the internet that's showing so much concern and then another side that's idolizing it, and I'm sure she is seeing both. And I know I mentioned those certain sides of the internet, and I know for a fact she was on them back then, and she's probably still on them now, because once your algorithm and everything is on those sides of the internet, separating that shit is so hard. So that's why I say it's about rewiring your brain, rewiring your taste buds, rewiring your phone. Like, at a certain point, every aspect of your life is linked to that damn disorder, whether you realize it or not. There is just such a lack of understanding out there, and so much misstereotyping, and so many people causing more harm than good without realizing it. And like I said, it comes from a place of privilege, and that's amazing, but ignorance is bliss until it's causing harm to other people. And it's not just Ariana herself you're causing harm to. There are so many young people on the internet that you are inflicting so much harm onto, but also giving them content to go and share in these other places that just causes that harm to continue to grow and spread to other people. And like I said, they are contagious, they are competitive, they are comparative, they are controlling. Like, I have so much to say about this and could talk about it for so long, but I only have about 10 minutes left to film, and hopefully one day I have the equipment to do this myself, but I have massive goals for myself, all to do with helping people in different ways, and one of those ways I'd love to be able to do that is eventually to be able to clear up that misunderstanding and misstereotyping, and I would love to be able to turn my own story into either a series or a movie where I'm also able to get people that are both in the public eye and from our little community to be able to come and act in a role of either themselves at a point where they were struggling or as someone that had a negative or positive impact on them while they were struggling. Like I said, everyone struggles with their disorders in different ways, and the stereotyping and lack of individuality when it comes to treating them and the amount of harm that causes is so wildly misunderstood, and I want people with different races and ethnicities and body types and disabilities and financial statuses, like I want so many people to be able to come and act in a role that shares their experiences and educates people on just how different and how complicated eating disorders can be. Severe enduring anorexia is something that so little people will ever understand, and that is such a good thing, but it makes it so hard to get any help for it. I finally have goals for myself, I'm finally living a life, I'm finally reversing the damage that I caused, or that the doctors that didn't understand it caused. There is not one way. It's about finding what makes every day easier for you and working towards a healthier, happier life and continuing to find those things and do those things. And that's going to look different for everyone. People that are struggling with these things just need to understand that it is possible. You're not the anomaly, you're not the exception to the rule. You will deal with the consequences of your actions one day, and you don't want to wait until that's your body literally going to shit and you losing control of any of that sort of stuff. You don't want to wait till you lose your health. You don't want to wait until you're dealing with the consequences of your actions for you to realize, I actually do want to live a life. I actually do want to heal from these things. I actually do want to separate my identity from my disorder. And you need to start faking it till you make it with so much of that. You need to start telling yourself you're more than that disorder. You need to start telling yourself it is possible to change. You're not the exception to the rule. You're not the anomaly. You don't just have a different brain. Things can always be better, and at the very least, things can always be managed better. And if you have to fake it till you make it, be Delulu till it comes true, manifestation, station, gentle parent yourself, I don't care what you call it, you are fully capable of changing the things about your brain that you deserve to change, and today's as good a day as any. And obviously we've just touched on certain ways that some of us end up hardwired to be harmful to ourselves. Other people end up so hardwired to being harmful to other people without even realizing it, and I think the James Charles situation is a really good way of highlighting that. When someone's first point of reaction is something that causes harm to other people, whether that's because their first point of action is to be angry or to try and tear down other people, like so many different people end up hardwired in so many different ways. But at a certain age, there is no excuse for repeated shitty behavior. And unfortunately, when it comes to certain influencers and celebrities, they don't even realize how abnormal that behavior is, but they also might be in a position where they don't care to acknowledge or change that. But like I said, there becomes a certain point where at a certain age, it is your responsibility to change things about your brain that cause harm to other people. When your first point of reaction is to either be angry or jealous or automatically be offended or automatically get defensive, not only are you keeping yourself miserable, you're making other people miserable and having a negative impact on yourself and others. And by not actively changing that, you're just allowing your brain to set in those roots and continue wiring itself in those directions, which is just going to keep progressing. I always say you're going to have to deal with the consequences of your actions one day, and that goes for not changing the things about your brain that need to be changed. There is no excuse for shitty repeated behavior, and unfortunately I think with James, he has ended up in so many situations that highlight that exact issue. You're not actively changing anything about yourself, and there are a lot of things that people have picked up on that perhaps need to be changed about your brain, but it's not only negatively impacting other people, it's negatively impacting you, and you're just going to grow more and more miserable and keep inflicting more and more harm to other people, which will isolate you in the end. There is such a lack of compassion and empathy in this world, and we've spoken about how some people have too much of it, some people don't have enough of it. And either extreme can be harmful, but if you have a platform and are in such a public light where you have the opportunity to negatively impact so many people, you are so beyond responsible for changing those things about yourself that might need changing. So I really hope, if anything, James walked away from this situation learning that he needs more compassion and actively putting in the work to try and gain more compassion and rewiring the parts of his brain that were maybe super reactive over something that they shouldn't have been. But I've literally got 30 seconds left. Oh my god. Alright, I'm gonna have to leave that there for the day. I am so sorry, my darlings. If anyone has any Q&A questions, any what would you do's, feel free to send them through over to my Instagram or my TikTok, even my email. I don't mind. But I hope everyone has an amazing week. Forehead kisses all round. If you want me to talk about absolutely anything or elaborate on anything, please just leave a comment or send me a message and we can absolutely do that. Alright, I'm gonna have to love yous and leave yous, but just know if there's absolutely anything about your brain that you want to be slightly different for the better, you are fully capable of changing it. It is completely possible and you do deserve it. Even if you have to fake it till you make it, you can do it and you deserve a better life, a better brain. You deserve to find the things that make every day easier and every tomorrow seem exciting. And I can't wait to hear about all the ways you guys are able to do that for yourselves. Have an amazing rest of your week. Look after yourselves. Forehead kisses all around. And we'll yap again so very soon. Bye. Thanks for yapping.